but it's now my honor to kick off the presentation of the 2025 ISHLT Lifetime Achievement Award, which we give posthumously this year to the renowned Dr. Allan Glanville. We'll start with ISHLT President Chris Benden of Boston's Children's Hospital. Dr. Benden.
This is my disclosure slide. Dear annual meeting attendees, ISHLT members and colleagues, it is with the greatest respect that I announce that ISHLT is honoring the legacy of the late Professor Allan Glanville with the 2025 ISHLT Lifetime Achievement Award. The ISHLT Lifetime Achievement Award is bestowed annually by the ISHLT Board of Directors on individuals who are nominated by ISHLT members and whose lifetime of work has made a significant contribution to improve the care of patients with advanced heart and lung disease. And very rightly so, Professor Allan Glanville receives this Lifetime Achievement Award as the first pulmonologist, as he was truly a visionary leader who contributed so much to the field of advanced lung failure and lung transplantation. Professor Allan Glanville graduated from the University of Sydney Medical School in 1978 with honors. Already very early in his career, he developed his particular interest in the field of thoracic transplant medicine during a fellowship at the Royal Brompton Hospital in London in the UK. Thereafter, he completed a 2-year postdoctoral research fellowship in thoracic transplantation at Stanford University in California, where he published his very early transplant research, co-authored by the legendary Dr. Norman Shumway, a heart transplant pioneer and the first ISHLT Lifetime Achievement Award winner in 1996. So here the circle closes. After his return to Sydney, Professor Glanville completed his thesis on human heart and lung transplantation and was awarded his MD from the University of Sydney. In 1989, he joined the thoracic transplant unit at St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney that he led as lung transplant medical director and director of thoracic medicine for over 2 decades until 2019. Professor Allan Glanville attended his first ISHLT meeting in 1987 in New Orleans, and he remained a beloved member of our ISHLT community all his life. He served as the scientific program chair for the 2013 ISHLT annual meeting in Montreal and as president of ISHLT from 2013 to 2014. He led and participated in the documentation and development of numerous of our documents over his lifetime. Very close to his heart, those on the definition, diagnostic criteria, and approaches to chronic lung allograft dysfunction, or CLAD, and pulmonary antibody-mediated rejection. Even until his very sad passing last year, Professor Glanville participated in the development of an update document on pulmonary antibody-mediated rejection and also on baseline lung allograft dysfunction. He authored well over 200 publications throughout his professional career. In 2000, Professor Glanville was one of the founders of the European and Australian Investigators in Lung Transplantation Group. And for many of us, like myself, Professor Glanville was also a cherished mentor, a great teacher, and an excellent supervisor. Last year, I had the great pleasure to notify Professor Glanville on behalf of my board of directors that he was elected to receive the 2025 ISHLT Lifetime Achievement Award to honor his significant contributions to ISHLT and also his outstanding achievements in the field of advanced lung failure and thoracic transplantation. And I can tell you, Professor Glanville was deeply humbled by it. Personally, I was really hoping until the last minute that he would be able to be here with us today to receive this truly deserved Lifetime Achievement Award. But as you know, unfortunately, Professor Glanville sadly passed away on the 22nd of December last year in Sydney from stage 4 melanoma at the age of only 71, surrounded by his beloved family.
Thank you, Chris. We'll now welcome Dr. Vincent Valentine, one of Allan's very fond colleagues, to the stage to deliver some additional remarks.
Good morning, everyone. It seems fitting that things are falling into place, such as last-second edits that even F. Scott Fitzgerald made. You'll see the appropriateness. But I got to turn to John Cleveland, Xeno Bridge with Pigs, Scott Pollard, All-Time Sky High, A Giant is in my talk, and Joao Coutinho, making his points. I'm deeply honored to say a few words about our maestro of eloquent words. Wish me luck. 4 months ago, the ISHLT lost a giant, Scott. I lost a dear friend. We're without Allan today, but from Fitzgerald's Gatsby, so we beat on, boats against the current, borne ceaselessly into the past. But Allan is here. He's part of us for what he has done for us and our patients for over 40 years. Good day, mates. Over 3 decades, Allan and I understood each other without uttering a word. His attentive and unbroken silence as a listener is as communicative as his words and actions on the most complicated topics. When he speaks, his words are clear. Despite an average physical stature, his presence and essence fill a room extending into convention centers and surrounding streets across the globe. In his presence, one can receive his undivided attention as if they were the only person around. This ability to give someone such focused attention is a key trait of effective communication. As a dedicated scientist, he was decisive and unflinching, capable of adjustments to address uncertainties. He believed that learning from mistakes brings us closer to the truth. He was an impeccable, keen observer of life, always on the look. Although his absence is noticeable, it is comforting to reflect on memories of Allan. These recollections help maintain focus moving forward. He was always in motion, pausing to observe whatever captured his interest. Books, words, quotes, songs, flicks, meals, drinks, views, peculiarities in nature, structures, moments. I will cherish our long and contemplative walks through great cities to overcome jet lag, or to unstiffen his hips of a subtle arthritic gait. These strolls would continue until we were lost in thought, time and space, at times, and many times, stretching into sunrises, especially to the live music of the Red Hot Chili Peppers in New Orleans. We got lost in Madrid, enjoying roasting suckling pig, Dr. Cleveland, at the Restaurante de Sobrino de Boten. Sleep never got in our way. We chose to save it for later. Times together, and many times together, we would start our day with a chocolate croissant and end with an ice cream, debating how Hesiod and Ovid influenced Shakespeare and other literary figures to understand the origins of original thought. Now, up here I should have steering committees. I'm sure you're familiar with these slides. Many people know them. Allan often emphasized his points with look, or let's have a look, especially when someone was confused. He engaged learners to make them feel exclusively attended to, which helped them resolve issues on their own. I appreciated seeing what was obvious to Allan. When the learner gets it, there's a light on, a heavy glow, words from the Chili Peppers. He would provide historical information such as the Roman custom of drinking wine mixed with water. How many times have you seen this slide? A designated individual known as the arbiter bibendi, who decided the proportion of water to wine according to the mood of the gathering. Too little water, the wine would be sour and unpleasant. Too much, then nobody would get drunk. Professor Glanville defines the measure of man respected across continents and cultures, an Australian man defining the worldly man. I'm not happy with the state of affairs in America today. Allan would say, you're not alone. America needs to heed this advice, but more so now than ever. But Allan would say, Vince, to keep me aligned. Anyway, Allan filled many roles: friend, husband, father, papa, physician, scholar, president, wine and food connoisseur, fashion enthusiast, particularly of ties. Xenia, by the way. And a leader with unwavering devotion to duty, and notably a lifelong learner. His contributions to organizations, immense, leaving enduring legacies. Allan, now that you're gone, we've lost our footing from your shoulders, especially with our choices. His response, all will be well. Work hard and finish what you start. Allan has left behind a few little things, not stranger things. Teddy and his rug. His grandson, Rue, who is already, with his own chainsaw, pruning his path. His average home meal and a crashing wave at and from Bagola Beach. Finally, Allan's indelible marks that remain with us. Evaluate a situation in its entirety before honing in. Accept that we're all human, we make mistakes. Admit, apologize, adjust, and move on. Delight in art, read poetry, revel in music, read the question, read it again, answer the question that was asked. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent, for sharing those beautiful memories and, testaments to Allan's impact on all of us. We'd like to share a few more special tributes in honor of Allan's life and legacy.
It's a real honour to say a few words of tribute to the late Professor Allan Glanville. Allan always made you stop and think, and he challenged existing paradigms about our understanding of so much in the field of lung transplantation. He was an exceptional clinician and a strong advocate for his patients. His research was always focused on improving patient outcomes, whether it was through his translational research studies or in the clinical trials which he pioneered to generate evidence in previously evidence-free zones. I will definitely raise a glass to your memory, Allan, and reflect on your tremendous contribution to our discipline. You'll be sorely missed.
Over 25 years ago, I met Allan when I presented a scientific abstract during the lung transplant session at the American Thoracic Society meeting. Allan went out of his way to be kind, thoughtful, welcoming. Allan was an ideal president and mentor, especially during these sometimes contentious sessions. He allowed the group to work independently, yet always knew the right moment to step in, resolve a conflict, or make a tough decision. Last year, Allan was unable to attend the meeting. I let him know that I would toast him as part of my speech at the Past President's dinner. Allan gave me these words to read. So, how do I see the society? Basically as an extension of my own family, through which since 1986, I have been privileged to meet wonderful friends and colleagues of diverse origins and skills, but all of whom have enriched my life immeasurably by dint of scholarship, commitment, and dedication. I know of no other society so collegial. Well said, Allan. We will miss you terribly.
When I met Allan, I had months to live with no quality of life. After our first meeting, I knew he was the man I needed to align with. He was positive, encouraging, and kind. Now, 34 years later, I still work full-time, can swim a kilometre without stopping, travel extensively, and have 2 healthy grown boys. He often said he was making sure I lasted 50 years, not just the first 5. He had his own theories on how to prevent long-term rejection, and although sometimes I challenged his treatment, I also had to think long-term. I did enjoy challenging him though. Sometimes I would go a year or 18 months and not see him, and he would call me and say, "It's time you came in for a blood test, an x-ray." He told me late last year in our last conversation that I'm on a solid, healthy path and that I didn't need him anymore. I didn't accept that line for a second and miss him so, so greatly, as do we all.
Hello from St Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. Professor Allan Glanville was so important to our lung transplant program. He was the heart and soul and often ventilator of our program here at St Vincent's Hospital. We will miss him greatly with him gone, but his legacy still lives on. Thank you, Allan.
I first met Allan back in 1992, where he said to me, "You need a bilateral lung transplant. I'll give you 30% chance of living 2 years if you don't have one." At the time, I was on oxygen and in a wheelchair. I remember Allan had a way of stating the dire truth, but in a gentle manner. I would travel interstate to see Allan at the transplant unit, and I was always amazed. His memory of my health, right down to the meds I was on. I never dreamed that I would outlive Allan, my specialist, my doctor. I was devastated when he passed away, but I'm so thankful that I met him all those years ago. And my life is so enriched for doing so, and I just could not be happier for this honour to be bestowed upon him.
What is truly extraordinary about Allan is his rare and beautiful ability to form a truly unique relationship with every person he met. He cut through the ego and landed exactly on what mattered most, that particular human connection. The 2016 pulmonary AMR statement was an ambitious and often exhausting project. one that Allan loved and truly where his wisdom shone brightest. He listened quietly to the opinions, the debates, and sometimes long-winded tangents. And then, just when we'd all been nearly derailed, he'd offer one quietly brilliant sentence that pulled us right back to the heart of it. So often I thought we would not get there, but his words over and over were those of patience and those of confidence. We'll get through this, day by day. And we did, because he never lost the thread. He knew the process had meaning, he believed in the work, and more than that, he believed in us as a group. He is deeply missed every day, but we carry him with us in how we mentor, how we lead, and definitely how we care for each other day by day. We miss you, Allan. We love you.
Congratulations to the family on your dad's award. I think it's incredible that he was shortlisted for this award, but then to go on and be the recipient, really, I think is truly remarkable. And it's a real honor, I think, for him and for the family. It's so well deserved.
It became very clear that this meant so much to him because of the sentiment in which it was given, and that it was conferred by peers with whom he'd shared so much and that he held in just such high regard.
The fact that it was a mark of recognition from his colleagues, and the colleagues that he cared the most for and valued the most, I think that was what made it mean so much to him.
He was so hopeful that he was going to be able to come and join you, not because he wanted to stand up on a stage and get it, but because he really wanted to share it with you all and to thank you all for the memories. And he was absolutely thrilled, and he was embarrassed a little bit.
You know, he saw it as a recognition and a celebration for all the staff that had supported him over literally decades. And I thought that just spoke volumes of the sort of person your dad was.
He was always so supportive of building capability, of building relationships, of building skill and knowledge, but also sharing the outcomes and sharing the results and sharing the successes.
And I think when we looked back, we think that he attended almost every ISHLT meeting from 1992 until his last in Denver in 2023. He'd come home from meetings imbued with this immense enthusiasm, like a Labrador puppy almost. He was excited about the potential for the future of transplantation.
It was really clear it was his second family. When you would talk to him, he was just so fond of everyone in the society.
Prior to his death, Dad showed Mum Elsa and I all of the emails that he'd received, and he was so touched by all of the well wishes, the reflections on his career, the memories shared, the brilliant work carried out. And I don't think we can stress enough how deeply he cared for ISHLT as an institution. But I think most of all, what kept him going was seeing the impact of his work on patients, giving them the opportunity to breathe freely and to live a full life. I think that's what drove Dad more than anything else.
Patients really respected your dad. You know, they respected his knowledge. They really felt listened to. When we'd go on ward rounds with your dad, it was very obvious how much they really admired him, but they really appreciated feeling listened to, and that was really, really obvious to me.
And we've all sat in a doctor's office and felt like we've poured our hearts out and not been listened to. We've all felt that. And to have someone who really listens and really sees you as a whole, it's pretty rare.
Dad was a founding member of Share Life and Outcomes Australia, which he, helped set up, which was focused on improving Australia's organ donation policy, process and methodology. Any impact on organ donation was obviously going to directly improve his ability to deliver for his patients, but also for all those requiring organ donation.
And I think it's just a remarkable skill to be so active in the transplant sector and then to take time out and work at the donation sector as well. I think very few people have done that, but I'm not surprised to hear that your dad was so active.
seeing his patients living their own lives, being able to enjoy the things that Dad enjoyed, having their own families, climbing mountains, skiing, running marathons, you know, all of those, having careers. Dad took great joy in each of his patients' successes.
Yeah, his support for people was really genuine, and it was very impactful.
There are so many wonderful memories of Dad. Him, you know, reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" to us every Christmas under the Christmas tree, traveling to Europe with him dragging us around every winery in France that he could find. You know, skiing in Italy and the US, going cross-country skiing with him at Charlotte's Pass when I was little, long hikes in the snowy mountains or in the bush where he was, you know, regaling us with stories of his time in Scouts. You know, they're very fond memories.
Yeah.
Watching the cricket together, playing cricket together, also, you know, wonderful because of his passion for the game. Really what my favourite memories are, I mean, and maybe it's just me being at Bilgola at the moment, but are just Sunday afternoons like today, Sunday afternoons, pottering around Bilgola, washing the car, mowing the lawn, cleaning the garage, fixing a light bulb, you know. It's all those really basic, simple things. They're the ones that sort of stick the most in my memory, and I think I miss the most.
For as long as I can remember, Dad has been the one who's just, in a really quiet, really unassuming way, he has believed in me. He was just there as that quiet, you know, backer of you.
What do you think your dad's greatest legacy will be?
I think that his patients and their families, and I think the medical and allied health professionals that he felt fortunate enough to have taught and mentored, I think they're his legacy.
His contribution to academia through his written work, and, you know, through his training of the next generation of physicians.
I think he emphasised the importance of the person as a whole, their history, their family, what they want from life. He didn't presume that what he wanted from life was the same as what someone else would want from life. So I think if he's shown another generation of medical professionals that that's something that's really valuable, then hopefully that's a legacy that will continue.
On behalf, and I think I can confidently say this, on behalf of everyone that your dad has mentored and trained around Australia, around the world, it's clear to me that his family has been the foundation for his success, and it certainly underpins, I think, successful careers. I think that's been really evident today, and, you know, I really want to thank you for that, because many of us have benefited from ultimately the strong sense of family and support that Allan has had around him for decades. So my gratitude extends to both of you, and congratulations again for this award.
And now, please welcome to the stage Dr. Glanville's colleague at St Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, Paul Jansz, who will accept the Lifetime Achievement Award on Allan's behalf.
Thanks very much, John. For once in my career, I have a disclosure. I have a conflict of interest, and I'm a dear friend of Allan's. And it's been a pretty emotional session, and I won't take up too much more of your time. But I've known Allan for most of my career, and at St Vincent's for almost 3 decades. He's been a force, he's been a present, and he's been a friend and a mentor to a lot of people in this audience. And so when he asked me to accept this award on his behalf last year, I really didn't want to, because obviously I'd rather be sitting there watching him get it. So but he was a great man, and typically, I'm a surgeon, and our days would start in ICU, and we'd be waiting for the God squad, we used to call, come around, and I'm not particularly interested in cyclo levels or tacrolimus levels or eosinophils. I was just happy to get two good anastomoses and no bleeding. But when Allan came around, he filled the room. And he somehow made lung transplantation, or the medicine of it, interesting to a surgeon, to a Luddite like me. His command of it was awesome. His command of the medicine was incredible. And it was addictive and enticing. But he'd walk straight past us, particularly if the patient was extubated, and as you heard, he went straight to the patient. And just his presence, his manner, his personality, he would assuage any fears, any terrors that the patient had, and before you know it, they were talking about their grandkids, or and Allan was talking as if he'd done the transplant as well. So things were great. And then once he'd settled the patient down, we get down to the nitty-gritty of the round. And if you'd worked with Allan for as long as I have, you realise that you didn't have to tell him anything. He knew everything. He knew about the operation. He knew it took me a little bit longer to get the left lung in. He knew all the metrics of the ice. He knew all the blood results. He knew the immunology. So there was nothing to tell him. So hoping that I was off the hook, I'd just sit back and watch. And his command of the medicine and the science was one thing, but it was really his care and his compassion and his dedication. And you've all seen it. He used to get that look in his eyes, that steely look in his eyes, and he was determined to get it right. And transplant, as you all know, can get tough, and when the going got tough, Allan would step up, and he was the most incredible patient advocate. He never, ever gave up on a patient. So the round would end, and as you heard, he was a sporting tragic, as am I. He loved his cricket, he loved his rugby. We'd bore everyone talking about what happened on the weekend and what should have happened. He loved his family. We'd swap family stories. It was clear that they were the most important people in his life, and it was a joy to hear all of that, and particularly towards the latter years when he became a pop. He was just beaming with pride. So, St Vincent's, and in his spare time, as you probably have seen, they weren't just pictures of him mucking around on a farm. He actually ran a sheep station. I don't know how he did it, but it wouldn't be unusual for him to say, "Oh, Paul, I just, shorn 300 sheep, or I've just delivered 60 lambs." He was really quite incredible. So St Vincent's is definitely not the same without Allan. So, wherever you are, Allan, I know undoubtedly you're in charge and you're trying to make things better, but I'd like to thank you for just being the physician you were, for being the colleague you were, from all the patients, for giving them their lives back in many ways, and for the utmost dedication you showed to them. I'd like to thank you for your door always being open. He was a couple of doors up from me, and his door was always ajar, and he was always there to listen to you. And I want to thank you for being a friend. And finally, I want to thank the Society and everybody here in this room. As you've heard, this group of people meant a lot to Allan, and they were his family, and he'd be so proud of what's happening today and very grateful. So thank you very much. Cheers, mate.